My Northern Achiever is proudly brought to you by Bonza Rural Bank Limited, Unity, Strength, and Wow.
The movers and the shakers in the Consultative Assembly.
I am a native of Dabo.
Go back to the Holy Quran for solutions. Now the Quran of the Shah.
And you'll more Abdul-Nasr Imam Mahmoud Al-Hadi Jibril Imam Al-Shah.
Tomorrow's responsibilities will be greater.
The name, you can be sure, emanated.
So why not join me, Abdul-Jalil Naabeli, the son of Musa Kumo, as my guests and I throw you life-changing stories. Thank you so very much, and good evening to you wherever you are. This is my Northern Achiever on Sagani TV with me, Abdul-Jalil Naabeli. I am a son of Musa Kumo. Like I always say, I have another great guest in my midst, a Northern Achiever, and a personality who really has toiled to get to where he is today, and who is a role model to a lot of people in the North and the country at large. And at this point, I'll go for a very quick commercial break. I'm back shortly after introduce my guest and we start the program for today. We'll be back shortly.
My Northern Achiever is proudly brought to you by Bonza Rural Bank Limited, Unity, Strength, and Wow.
Thank you so much for holding on to my Northern Achiever on Sagani TV with me, Abdul-Jalil Naabeli. My guest today is a politician, a farmer, a technocrat, so many parts, and so we are getting to know him a lot more today on the show. But before then, the Kutunin Yatigi, Saloka to bound the Kamani, my Northern Achiever, Nyala program Shale, the MEL framework, program Kamala framework, so to speak, and program framework Nyama Kamani. Tian Yala, Selmi, Selene, Don Kulian Cheka, to Tudungo, the Lanin Karamama, to Tozamba way, Dunia Zaka, Dagban, Bokonko Katian Zamba way. The Bab, the Nyanga, my Northern Achiever, touch my Akuli, Northern Palat. Northern region Konko, the Nyala to Tudungoza, and those are Unfriya Rabja Kamne Kamane, Tina, the Dagban, Tengang Zabasi, Tengang Kumpamba, Tengang Walanama, Salanama, Dagare, Farfarnama, Bezasa Nyalabumbi. Tudungo to Tina la Marensa at a gang but maybe tune at a ganso catch so the zoo in Yeton zoo cat yare selmesele the phone those took me so ya camera who host the program on the equal children so ne and then yelling so comes out bound and Mr. Mesele I program framework Ninya Shambala particularly so I bought that dear fancy them there for Yam Wumbe Wum the Silmi Celebration Mumba Wum ka auto lab got Dela at as I said dear Fanny ka junior za did damn fanny and Garneta Bambo Conco and did the damn fanny. Right, so today I have with me the former Agric Minister, the former Deputy Agric Minister, former MP for Mion Constituency, Honorable Alhaji Ahmed Yakubu Alasan. Honorable, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
We are so grateful for having you on our show, and you've been quite, you've been on the quiet since leaving Parliament. Why? Are you on a sabbatical, or you have just forgotten politics altogether?
Oh no, I'm still quite deeply involved in my party's activities. It's just that as a member of Parliament, you are more in the open, and so to speak. But otherwise, since 2017, when we left office, I've been in the thick and thin of NDC activities. One, I serve as the president of Northern Region Branch of the NDC Professionals Forum, which is a conglomerate of professionals within the NDC party. I lead the group in Northern Region. Then in October last year, the party was so lucky to be chosen among the 2023 of us put together to draw the manifesto for the NDC as a party. We have almost completed our job. And so I've been involved in many other issues. I serve as the chairman of the welfare committee, the social committee of the welfare committee of the NDC Northern Region party. I'm also very, very much in touch with my constituency, so to speak, just to ensure that I continue to engage. So yes, I'm quiet but extremely active within the political
wow.
scene.
So
I also serve lastly
okay.
as a research officer
Okay.
for the minority secretariat within the Parliament of Ghana.
Wow.
That's my current contract. So and that has been my contract since last year, and that ends at the end of the parliamentary term. Yeah, so I'm very involved.
Great to know. Revealing, quite revealing, only on my Northern Achiever. And there you have it. That is Dr. Yakubu for you. And so we are going to dig deep into him and find out who he is and every other thing that we need to know about Doc. So let's start by getting to know the family you're coming from, the village, the schools you attended, and your early life generally.
Well, I was born 3rd December 1957.
Okay.
Maybe, yeah, 6 months after, a few months after Ghana's independence. So I'm an independence year born, 1957. And I was born in Yendi to my father, Alaji Haruna Mumuni, and my mother, Hajia Mariama Mahama. My early upbringing was like any average child. I was with my father and mother in Yendi until it became necessary for me to be moved back to our hometown where my father really originates, my grandfather originates. So, and that is Sang. So I was sent back to Sang purposely to be sent to school. In those days, you had to be sent, you are recruited into school in the Chief's Palace.
Yeah.
And so we went to Sang's Palace, and then the head teacher said I didn't qualify to be in primary school and that they should take me home. So I'm told, later when I grew up, I was told that I told the head teacher that I don't understand why he will not admit me into his village primary school since I was going to school already in Yendi. Okay. So I stayed in the house, I think, for a couple of days or weeks, and then the head teacher changed his mind and asked me to come to the school. That's how I was enlisted into primary school, and I never looked back from then on. Wow. So that was Sang Local Authority Primary School, the most important school I have attended in my life. Wow. After primary education, I went back to Yendi. Those days there was middle school, so I went to Balogo Middle School. I had a senior uncle, or an uncle of mine, who was 2 years ahead of me in school, and we're in the same. My father was looking after all of us. Mr. Abukar Musa, Alasan Musa, A.A. Musa. He's also a retired teacher now. He was with us, and then he passed common entrance when I was in Form 1 and went to secondary school. Okay. So the following year, Form 2, I also decided that I'll write the common entrance exam. My father said, why don't you do it the way your uncle did it? Get to Form 3 when you are well versed in and then you can pass it. I refused. And I was influenced more by my peers who were also in class with me, such as Dr. Ibrahim and Co. And then I went to write the common entrance exam. Unfortunately, I didn't pass that year. Subsequently, I was given, I wrote an entrance exam to a secondary school in Volta region called Vapo Secondary. They gave me admission in the first instance. I wasn't reporting. They gave me half scholarship. I wasn't reporting. They gave me full scholarship to go. But, the finances within home, and I think at that time it was not really a public school. So really, it was not an option at all. So I abandoned that one and went into Form 3. Form 3, of course, it was easy for me to pass. And then I went to Ghana School.
The Great Ghana School.
The Great Ghana School. Ghana School was then called Ghana College. And then when we went in Form 1, it was quite an exciting time. The average secondary school student was an inspiration to, his community and his former middle school or primary school, etc., and then his family as well, because it was quite rare to find too many people from one family in secondary school at the same time. So it was quite an inspiration, and I was happy to be in Ghana School at the time. This was 1971 September. someone has stepped foot there. And I must say that, again, I spent 7 years in Ghana School. I wrote O-level in 1976 and then A-level in 1978. The irony is that we're the last batch that made Ghana School an O-level school. And the first batch that made Ghana School an A-level school. So sometimes I make a joke that we are the only batch that doesn't have seniors in Ghana School, that kind of thing. And I met quite a number of people, again, who inspired me as colleagues. I met a lot of teachers that really inspired me to achieve. And I'm not surprised that Ghana School really was the foundation block to get me to catapulted onto my academic pursuits. And I've never regretted for being an old Ghana scholar.
So that is interesting. We've been having a wonderful conversation with Dr. Yakubu, the former MP for Mion and former Deputy Agric Minister. An old Ghanascan, a proud one at that. And when I tell you, Tamaskans, that there is no other school better than Ghana School in the country, you don't want to agree. Satma be the Satma. Now, from Ghana School, did you further to any tertiary immediately, or did you have some meager jobs that you did? What happened after Ghana School, after A-level?
Honestly speaking, in Ghana School, after O-level, we are called. In fact, when we wrote our O-level, Ghana School sixth form class had not even been approved. Okay. But by the time the results came out, Alaji B. Fuseni was our headmaster. He had got approval to start the sixth form. So he came to Accra, I think Exams Council or wherever our sixth form camps were located, and picked the camps of some of us who had qualified to start the sixth form. So we're just 14 in number. We went on to write the A-level in 1978. We all did our best. And quite a number of us went straight into university at the time. So I entered Cape Coast University, 1979 earlier. Those were a very difficult time. The revolution time, the political environment was very charged. Students were in military rules. We had transitions with Liman's government. A lot of turmoil within the country, but we had to really. So we had to go to university first year, I think January of 1979 instead of September 1978, October 1978, and then we carried on. In the first year, there was also June 4th, active uprising. It was a very interesting situation at the time, but nevertheless, we continue to apply ourselves to our. So the truth of the matter is that I never really stopped going to school until I completed my first degree.
So what did you read at Cape Coast?
I did BSc in agriculture.
Okay, yes. So you've always, but back there in Ghana School, what course did you read?
In Ghana School, I did at O-level, I did science. Okay. At A-level, I did science. Okay. And then that propelled me to read BSc in agriculture in Cape Coast University. In fact, when I was leaving Tamale, I was leaving Tamale to go to the University of Ghana, Legon, as a science student. They gave me physics, chemistry, and geology as my combination. So when I arrived in Legon campus, I met some of my colleagues who were already there. There were people like President John Mahama, Dr. Sule Garba, His Excellency Mohammed Sayuti.
So you met John at Ghana School?
Yes. President Mahama was my direct classmate.
Oh, so you've been there way back.
Absolutely. Wow. We reported in Ghana School the same day and left the same day. Wow. And we did many things together. The two of us.
I need to get him on my show.
Yeah, to be very important.
How are you going to help me to get him?
I'll try.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not giving you that assurance.
So we are going to go for a very quick commercial break. We'll be back and then we'll talk a lot more about Doc's education, and then we get into his work experiences, and then we see how best he can advise we the youth of the North and the country at large so that we can become better citizens of society in future. My Northern Achiever is proudly sponsored by Bonza Rural Bank Limited, the bank that have you in mind and at heart. And so rush into any Bonza Rural Bank branch right about tomorrow or from Monday. Go there, open an account, do business with them, and you would never regret you do. We'll be back shortly after this commercial break.
My Northern Achiever is proudly brought to you by Bonza Rural Bank Limited. Unity, strength, and wow.
Thank you so much once more for always being loyal to me on My Northern Achiever on Sagani TV. I am Abdul-Jalil Naabeli, son of Musa Kumwe, and today I have with me a great Northern personality, very, very great man, former minister, former MP, and so we'll get to know a lot more about his political life and things positions he has taken up that we don't even know about will be known today. So if anybody is not yet close to their TV sets, call them and tell them that I have Dr. Yakubu, Ahmed Yakubu Alasan here with me, the former MP from Mion Constituency.
Yes.
Now let's come to talk about from Cape Coast, where you read BSc Agri.
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, I completed Cape Coast University. I will say that I was among the top of my class, so to speak. And so the School of Agriculture, which was where we're located, or the faculty, if I can put it that way, called me back. They retained me as a teaching assistant, as a process of grooming me, maybe to become a teacher within the university. There were four of us who were selected. Now at that time, there was quite some serious shortage of teachers within the education service, Ghana Education Service. And so the National Service Secretariat put a lot of priority on getting fresh graduates to the secondary schools to teach, so that they can make up for those shortages. I remember that those university classes were also very small. We were just 29 of us in our class, 29. So the National Service Secretary didn't think that four of us out of the 29 should remain within the university. So myself and another colleague of mine, Asan, were taken out. And then the other two left to their national service. I'm happy to report that of the two that were kept behind, one of them has retired as a professor in soil science, which is good. So the rest of us, two of us were taken out. I was sent to the head of civil service and posted to the Ministry of Agriculture in the Upper East region, where I started my national service. Incidentally, national service for our group was 2 years. The reason being that we graduated in 1982, and for some strange reason, in 1983 there were no university leavers because of the same turmoil, strikes, and things like that. So there were just some strikes, either by lecturers or students and things like that. So the academic year was killed. So we're made to do 2 years national service. So I did the first year in Uradep, in the Upper East region, which was what represented the Ministry of Agriculture. And then I came back to Ghana Rice Production Company in Tamale for the second year of the national service. When I completed that, I have a passion for imparting knowledge. I enjoy explaining things to people. So teaching has always been something that I had an ambition to do. So I went back to Ghana School after my national service to teach. At that time, Ghana School had a subject A-level agriculture. So I was teaching the A-level class, teaching biology to the junior forms and things like that. So I was there for 1 academic year, and then I went to what is now Savannah Agricultural Research Institute. It used to be called the Nyankpala Agric Experiment Station. It was a Ghanaian German project, a government project. So I joined Savannah Agric Research Institute in 1985, December, as a young scientist. And my whole attitude was to go deep into academia and achieve a PhD as the highest qualification that I could realize. And then, yes, life was on my side. After 3 years at the institute, I got a scholarship. I went to the University of London, Y College, where I did my MPhil initially. But Y College was the Faculty of Agriculture for the University of London. So I went there. I spent 3 years. I did biotechnology for my master's or MPhil, which was a research degree. And then I came home, I think sometime in 1991. And then by 1997, I went back to the same university to start my PhD. By this time, I decided to do a split program. Okay. I wanted to do an indigenous project within Ghana and not go and study a crop that is under temperate conditions that may have limited applicability in the African context. So at the time that I came back from my master's, I was leading a research team in the Upper West region. At that time, research in agriculture in Upper West almost non-existent. So we were put together as a team to go and build the foundation for agricultural research in the Upper West region. I'm happy to state that the small beginnings and the modest contribution that I made resulted in the establishment of what we now call the agricultural research station in the Upper West region, where there are a lot of scientists, laboratories, and so on that has been working in the Upper West region. In the process of being in the Upper West region, there were certain observations that I made about the way they were producing their cereals and legumes. The Upper West region is where you find people producing maize and legumes on mounds. Yeah. They put it on mounds instead of other plants on the flat or ridges. Yes. Okay, so the idea was, why do they plant on mounds? And in the process of investigating, there were many suggestions being made as an agronomist. So I decided to investigate that. Yeah. So that was what my PhD thesis was about. Wow. Doing crops on mounds, on ridges, and on the flat, and comparing their densities and also their yields, And so as an agronomist, my specialty is on plant population dynamics. Population threshold that give you maximum yield and threshold that give you low yields, etc.
Have you over the years practicalized, the agronomist that you are? Do you practice it in life, or maybe you just an armchair agronomist?
Oh no, I do. I do practical farming myself. But I've always had a farm for a very long time. There are certain situations where my job, either as an MP or something, doesn't permit me to do the supervision by myself, and so that sometimes makes me not be a very good farmer.
To talk about right after your PhD, where did you find yourself? From Y University in London, when you finished the PhD, did you come back to Ghana, or did you have some works that you did back there in London before coming?
Oh no, I came back to Ghana when I finished my PhD in the year 2000, millennium year. I came back to Ghana, I think January 2001. That was the time that President Kufuor was just taken over. But I was advised by many people in Ghana to stay back in London because Ghana. But one day I told one of my colleagues, I said, well, I really don't know. I'm a very privileged Ghanaian. Because at that time in 2001, I don't know how many people from northern Ghana held a PhD as a qualification. And then they were in Ghana, scratching a living. So why do we think that I should hold a PhD? And by virtue of uncertainty in the political scene, I should not go back. So I said, no, I'm going to come back. I'm coming back to my institute to continue to work. So yes, when I came back to the institute, the leadership had changed. And so let me say that perhaps my level of comfort with the new crop of leaders wasn't really as good. And also I had already been there from 1985 up to the year 2001. So things looked relatively routine. And so I had a feeling that I needed to do something entirely different. I started to look for offers or jobs here and there, but that didn't really yield any results. By 2004, when the elections were approaching, there were a lot of people putting pressure on me about the MP position within my.
So that brings us to your political life. Have you always been a politician, or there was something that triggered you to join in politics? And what is it?
I have always been a politician. In fact, I've always been an admirer of the Rawlings, of the Rawlings style of leadership that looked sacrificial, it looked transparent, it looked honest, etc., etc. And for me, I was in the university at the time, and so I was one of those who
you could already understand. You could already understand what was going on.
Absolutely. And so I remember that these were times in our country when President Liman was president, and there were many arguments about free education for northern Ghana, why it was no more justifiable because he was a northerner who had become a president. There were issues about northern Ghana didn't need to have electricity from Akosombo because it was not economically viable to do so. There were many of these arguments, and so it came to the head. And I thought that when PNDC transformed to the NDC, it was only logical that I joined the NDC as a political party. So I'm a foundation member of the party, and so on. There was some suggestions for me to run as MP for Mion or candidate for Mion on NDC ticket. But fortunately for me, if I can call it a fortune, I had traveled out of the country. In fact, specifically I was in Colombia, and then for an international conference. And the situation was such that the entire commission would have called for people to come and fire as candidates when I will still be at the place. And so I missed out. And so I think the constituency secretary at the time was put in as the candidate, and he won. So he became our MP in 1993 up to 1997. So 96 came, and then I had to tell the party at the regional level that, well, I couldn't do it because my scholarship for my PhD had already come. And whereas there were many people who could become candidates for Mion, this scholarship was just for me alone. Wow. If I missed out, nobody from Mion was going to have it. Okay, so I decided that I'll let that one pass. So I went. When 2000 elections came, when I was still in the UK. Okay, so I came back. 2004 elections came, it looked like I had run out of excuses. Otherwise, I would have been called a bluff and so on. So some people do ask me, why did I run? But whilst the party was, if you like, through friends and colleagues applying this pressure for me to run, I was also internally examining myself and asking myself certain questions. One, I left some primary school, went all the way to acquire a PhD. The question I always ask myself, what was I going to put back into my community as a human being? I wasn't rich enough to, to do a lot of money. I was also working for a government institute that determined where I should work. So yeah, there are farmers in Mion, but I didn't determine where to work. In the situation where I was being found in the Upper West region, for instance. So when this suggestion was made, I said, well, fine. Maybe as a member of parliament, I can be a voice for the people of the area, and in the process, bring that area into the open, so that in the final analysis, Mion could they receive their fair share of the national cake. So you notice that Mion is caught between Yendi and Tamale. So many people don't see that to the left and right, as you travel, they are full of communities and they are mostly rural. So anytime people mention, I'm going to Yendi, I'm going to Tamale, nobody cares. Or the only song was only important because they'll stop there and buy some yam, get some bushmeat and so on, and that will be it. So anyway, one of my key objectives after becoming MP, fortunately, was to ensure that it became a planning unit in the national context. So I fought extremely hard for Mion District Assembly to be created. Absolutely, from Yendi. Because Yendi Municipal, it was Yendi Municipal, and that every justification to spend most of the resources in Yendi. Meanwhile, a lot of the resources were coming from Mion Constituency. Well, Yendi Constituency was mainly just Yendi town, and then towards the east, towards Abzu. And the rest, even Marjere and Zo, were all in Mion Constituency. You can see that the economic activities were mainly above on Yendi town, were all coming from Mion Constituency. So we thought that if Mion became a planning unit on its own, then to become a national, to be hooked to the national development agenda.
That was such a great vision, and I think the people of Mion, Sang and his environs should be thanking Doc for this particular initiative. We will come back to talk a lot more about his successes as an MP and as a politician after this commercial break. We'll be back shortly.
Yulimboni Abukari K. Mohammed Nyala Dabilu Yali Kama Nzanti Bonzal Rural Bank Marketing Officer Mbala Dinang ka Aibe Tumane Kay Borna da Shillere ka Kudi Vidan Shelle Bank Shell Anato Chanto Yoga accounts Nye Bonzale Rural Bank Limited Bozokan Yelala Bonzal Konko Male Songsam Dengam and Tozanta Kada Shiller ka Kudi Vi Tilogo Dinan Karenyala Adire la Yuare Bonza Rural Bank Golpia Kakana Tedega Ayuare Enchang Tezahami Biahumana Bisham Sasha Tenjion Karatabutu Kubukata Shell Ambora Temala Shalakatabon Salar Advance Anto Kana Antideg Golshell Dimbia Pune Yuare Bonzel Konkome and Terle Soka Shell Polo Denterle Tobonelemi Salar Advance Yaha Salar advance won nyanga dinin karanyala adir la yorti sane imma yil kayan mi loro kayan da haji kayan can be bo kayan nan bukata shakamsa an yanku kallashel an gob anune karaba galsi kallashel an mal ada kan so pune karaba yalala ayan kaname katata songa to bonela me loan to me mala personal loan kamal commercial loan la personal loan ngomi ninvo shab bandere yorta sane tum de bandere ba yorta sane banka tatala la personal loan ngoma commercial loan mi anto butum no tumata sane ama kalenye dabia kamal current account be savings account nyalba ka gbaza dabile ma yitu ko ngbolege ka yezon kana te bonza nam yula ada shilma nyala ben shashal den yan lar domi te yulma nyala bonza ko divi ami yan tiyan ta loan ngoma ayan zan la application letter na kada ta form ka fiya la form ma di ko yanre yuya yaza personal loan ma di yanre yuya yaza dabayi zan chan daba tango dale anyala nimvoso larma ne nki anune ka zan chan tazanku abukata ya demi nan karnyala agbaza nyala nimvoso wonno be dabilan pune imma shi to akamal buka malur nam ka kwara dabil go kampune ka yibe ka lasha de be bank man ma karaba gas de na tota a supplies ma ni vosha bantra ne mana ka yor la retraba be a ka anya ni voso yan chan Dubai be a chala umra be tin kan ka yan chan Lagos ka yan chan ka larma ba galse de mala overdraft facility ayan kaname mana dinan kan ya million cops nu 50,000 be ada accounts ma pune ayan chan ka ta ban amma million cops nu da accounts ma pune be to pongo pune ama million tole 100,000 kan bon zan chan to buy ngo tanya bayan ta overdraft ma ka chan antadda da gushel an bor mana be agus ma be a products ma zaha nzangna nto kwai kanye amfana de pune kana nto yo nzante bonzala ka wula kara gbaza min nda ayan sabla gbangna enya an bor sham ayan yole chiri shanga mbongo kata dege kate ka afile forma kata zan pa nzan song kata lagrama ay kuna ako en yor la lagrama en ada kam son na sashi kam za hama la kayan sona ka overdraft soma ka ragbaza mi yera ama dontonon ka abe dabilon karla pune ka la shel amal ma ba karbore te bon top up abor la amanga na zampana na adabilon ma tonto ta loan te bon commercial loan dan pa overdraft ma commercial loan ma bila de konko ka ce overdraft ma la commercial loan ma gwazami da bil niveau shabambe business karapune ka tito terlala loan ngoma anto dele 1 billion all cities be 100,000 be million tole ti yambole dagbanla joso ay bora ka wumni yerango nyang pama ma bonzela yama zoya anto cham branch kamza ha antazang afabla anzante management be anto nyel tangal michel ni yambolongo 020 9988-706 Zanchang overdraft ma be commercial loan ma be personal loan ma polo.
My Northern Achiever is proudly brought to you by Bonza Rural Bank Limited, Unity, Strength and Wow.
My Northern Achiever on Sagani TV is proudly sponsored by Bonza Rural Bank Limited, and as always today I have another great Northern personality in the person of Dr. Ahmed Yakubu Al-Hassan, former MP for Mion Constituency and the former Deputy Agricultural Minister of the Republic of Ghana. Now, we're talking about your MP position and how you were able to, use your position as MP to fight for the Mion enclave to making it a district on its own. You've told us your vision, but what other things did you do as an MP that you think are monumental and are worth mentioning on a program of this caliber?
Well, I must say that when I became MP in 2005, there were many real difficult problems within the Mion enclave. One was water, potable water. Education was not particularly good, particularly with respect to infrastructure to support teaching and learning within the area. Electricity was virtually zero. In fact, the Sang, which is the capital of the constituency then, and now the district capital, had its electricity commissioning just 2 days before the 2004 elections. Sang itself had its electricity commissioned 2-3 days before election in 2004. So you can tell where the rest of the constituency, the communities.
It was now up on your shoulders to be able to spread it around.
Absolutely. So it was quite a very daunting task, because I became MP in one term as, if you like, a minority MP. Yes. My party was not in power. So it was quite difficult. Fortunately, there were certain dedicated funds for members of parliament. And so I tried to stretch these funds reasonably well, so that it could cover, yeah. So there was get funds money, which are ring-fenced purely to provide educational support. There was also social intervention funds, which I ring-fenced purely to provide water for the communities within the Mion Constituency. I must say that I didn't achieve much when it came to rural electrification between 2005 and 2009. Fortunately, when we won the election in 2008, they put a lot of priority on rural electrification, and so Mion had its fair share of projects for electricity. In fact, what initially were offered as members of parliament was to suggest certain communities when we were in the minority. So what I did was to suggest outlandish communities for the first wave of, I think they said 5 communities for electricity. So when I was asked to propose 5 communities, I proposed Bumbonaye, which was almost at the far end of the constituency. I also proposed Nakwachi, which was at the southern end. Then I proposed Daboli, which I think Pavia initially. Pavia, which was also another far extreme, and then Jimli. And so the whole essence was to ensure that the wires ran,
so that at least even you can do communal labor.
Drop the wire in the community. I must say that not many within the constituencies understood why. Why do I hop over a place like Sanji, Kulimchao, another Kulimchao, then Batanga? But I, as a member of parliament, I had a feeling that that was the right thing to do, and I tried to convince as many people as possible. But of course, I didn't even achieve that much with these communities until the what they call it, we won the election, and then fortunately the rural electrification was given topmost priority. And so by the time I left in 2015 as the member of parliament for the area, I'll just say that rural electrification was no more an issue for Mion constituency again, because every community from Sang all the way to Daboni, all the way to Bofoile, was wired up. Wow. Every community from Palkore, which is the first community in my constituency, all the way to Sambu, was wired up. Every community from Majere, all the way to Bombona and beyond, was wired. In fact, Seke, all the way to Kushele, was also wired. And so there were just small pockets of communities left. Places like Afayili, which is, I'm told, also now has electricity. Then there was also some other communities that currently are being done by the current administration within.
Fast forward to 2015, like you said, your party had primaries, and you lost the position of the ticket for NDC, and to many it was a surprise. What happened?
Oh, let me say that in my politics, I opted for elective office, not selective office. And so with elective office, I must say that I was a lucky person to have won the seat 3 times on the hoof. in a row. No other MP before me had done that. All of them had served 1 term. So I did 3 terms. But I must state this. Many people don't know this actually. That it was really difficult that I decided to even want to repeat myself in 2015 for the primaries. Okay. But I sat down and I examined the political environment at the time. I had even already told colleagues that after 12 years in parliament, really, I think I wanted to opt for something else. So I wouldn't run in 2016. But the circumstances within the party changed. Professor Mills, unfortunately, passed. President Mahama had become president. He won 2012. So the circumstances were such that it was going to be a little bit difficult for me to now say that, oh, at a time that my own friend and brother was president, was the time that I was going to get out of parliament. I mean, it was a bit difficult for me to state anywhere. So I decided that, well, let me put in my heart again. But at the time this was going on, in politics, you really have to have your senses around you. You could sense that certain people who were, if you like, some people were getting a bit fed up with me. They thought that maybe I wasn't doing what they wanted.
They needed a new face, someone they could control more.
Exactly, someone they could control and so on. Because I've always believed, my politics side, that I am not afraid to disagree with the crowd, as long as I'm convinced that what I'm going to do is right. Because they will come to see it anyway, someday. So, and at that time also, I must say that also at that time, I was also older than most of the people I was operating with. Whether it was the party executives or the young men who, a crop of people coming up, and they didn't like Dr. Yakubu's ideology. Exactly, Yakubu's behavior, and he's too strict. I don't have patience for indiscipline. That is a fact. So whoever is messing around with me, I just check you out and move on. And so, these days the way we are. So I knew that many young people felt that maybe I was blocking their chance, to move up, etc. So, in 2015, when I lost the primary, honestly speaking, I felt a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. Very, 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 very happy.
A lot of the times when people like this speak about feeling relieved, you who is not an MP or have not been one would not understand. But I tell you what, there are certain positions that sometimes we sit from afar and think that it is only enjoyment, but people in it, they say an easy lies the head that wears the crown. Now, let's come to talking about, before I come to this, have you ever felt bitter for your party delegates kicking you out of parliament?
No, never. Never ever. Never ever. I know individuals who actually fought to get me out. But I'm fine with them. Do you know why? I have won the elections 3 times on the trot. And on all occasions, people contested me. And I won. It was time for me to also lose. And I found a lot of people really crying tears. So I had to call all of them to a gathering, and I climbed a table. And I asked them, why are you crying? Of course, I'm not going to get an answer. I said, I've only lost an election. They haven't announced my funeral. It's just an election I've lost. Dr. Yakubu is not dead. I'm standing here with you. But I want you all to reflect. Remember, last time we won. The one before we won. The one before we won. Did any of you go to the losers to find out their states? You celebrated and forgot about them. Today it is your turn to also taste defeat. So please, wipe your tears let's eat. We're all here in Sang and Mion together, and then life goes on.
But then you had an option to go independent. Did it ever occur into your mind? And if not, why?
Never ever. It never occurred to me to go independent. There were many people making those suggestions, and I said, no, that's not possible, because independent candidature is a direct hit on the party to weaken it. That is completely unnecessary. If you like, come back next time and contest.
In another election year, and the contest this year promises to be even hotter than ever before. What is your advice to every Ghanaian youth watching right about now towards election 2020 so that we can do it peacefully without any skirmishes?
I like to tell the youth of our country that many of us are facing out. That's the reality. And they are coming in. I don't think they want to come and meet a dismembered country, in which case they were the people used to dismember the country. Every youth must understand that it is not in their interest for them to be used to dismember a country that they are coming to inherit.
Wow, I think this is a powerful message. And on this note, we are going to go back to your days at the Agric Ministry. We've not talked about it. How did you get, the nod to become the Deputy Agric Minister, and how did you work there as a Deputy Minister?
Well, let me say that it was quite an honor, to be told that I'll go to the Ministry of Food and Agriculture as Deputy Minister. And I'm very grateful to His Excellency President Mahama to have given me that opportunity to serve the country in that capacity. And I must say that, there were quite some serious challenges within the agri sector when I arrived there. But basically, what I'd been associated with the agriculture sector all my life. So many of the people I was going to work with are people that I knew in various forms and capacities, etc., etc. And I enjoyed my 4-year stay there. Fortunately, for 4 years, I wasn't reshuffled like many people. And so when you are not reshuffled, it connotes, maybe a good output and so on. I worked also under 3 different ministers. And I must say that, I enjoyed my working relation with all of them. And I did the best I could, because I was handling the biggest chunk of the issues within the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. I was Deputy Minister in charge of crops, which is mainly what the ministry is dealing with. All crops except cocoa, which is handled by Cocoa Board. So it was quite a challenging piece. But I must say, many people do ask me, what did you achieve within the ministry? I always say that that's a question for the people I was working for to tell. But what I can observe is that, remember that between 2013 and 2016, there was a demonstration for one reason or the other by Ghanaians, whether it was about electricity, whether it was about water, whether it was about bar roads, health facilities. Those were everyday occurrences. But strangely and happily, there was not a single demonstration because there was no food in the country. Wow. Yes. So people can criticize our administration for whatever they want, as President Mahama's administration in the agriculture sector, for whatever they want. But the figures are there to speak. The data is there to speak that we left a positive food balance sheet for this country. And every single crop that was a challenge then is still a challenge up to today. We're importing rice. I think we still do import rice because we are not got to a situation where we'll be self-sufficient in rice. Yes, we'll consume a lot of vegetables, particularly tomato. We still are not self-sufficient in tomato production, and so we still have to have some imports either from Europe or South Africa or wherever. That is still there. We still consume a lot of foreign foods that we ought not to be consuming. And I believe that maybe the next NDC government will see to it that some of these are...
Is the 2020 elections a do or die affair for the NDC?
It is going to be a difficult election. Okay. It's going to be a difficult election.
Are you winning?
And inshallah, President Mahama will be back as President of the Republic.
We wish you well in your quest to coming back into power.
Thank you so much.
So at this point, I would like to just take your very final words on the program.
Yeah.
So that, but before then, how many wives do you have?
I have one wife, Haji Adisa Meda. We were married for 30 years this year.
Wow.
We got married in 1990, and this is 2020, so 30 years.
How many children?
We are blessed with 3 children.
Wow.
Chelpang is a boy, or a young man. Then he has a sister who's next, Parna. And then the third guy is the youngest, is in St. John's Senior High, Malgu. Yakubu, they are all Yakubu.
Is Parna married?
Parna is not yet married, so far as I know.
She's lucky.
And she's 23.
She's lucky I already have a wife.
I would have come for her.
Okay, that's great. But the other question would be that, how has your wife helped you, and how have you been able to live with her for 30 good years? I don't think she has ever packed back to her house and brought.
I'm sure if she packed back, they will turn her back. Anyway, I let me put it this way. The challenges in marriage are just as many as the marriages themselves. In other words, you can't take one formula in one marriage and try to let it fit into the other one. But I think that I would say that mine has endured. In particular, that I'm a product of a broken marriage myself. My father and my mother parted company maybe when I was 6 years old, something like that. So I can state without any embarrassment that I'm a product of a broken marriage. But fortunately, life has been good to me because in spite of all that, I've tried to fit in. So I think the basic thing is to keep it simple and to keep it within yourselves. And the two of you must decide that you want it to work. The two of you. It's a joint project and it's a work in progress. So the two of you must decide that you want it to work. It's not a question of, for me, if you block, I'm going back to my house, or if you block, I'm going to sack you, that kind of language. And I think your marriage can only be good if you are disciplined within it. And because the children will soon come. And so your attention will be divided here and there. Mommy wants the child to go that way, daddy wants the child to go that way. So there must be a certain middle point, meeting point where things can fall in place. But above all, you have to bring up your children to be disciplined, to respect people, and then to apply themselves to what it is that they have to do.
The minority leader has his eyes on the ball. Do you also have your eyes on the ball?
Well, let me say that I have my eye on the ball, all right, like the minority leader. I don't know what the minority leader means by he has his eye on the ball, but I think he's using a certain context of becoming president or something one day. Let me just say that I try to apply myself to the assignment of the day, and I keep it simple.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ahmed Yakubu Alasan for your time today. We've been speaking to Dr. Ahmed Yakubu Alasan. He was the former MP, or he is, because he's still alive, the former MP for
Mion Constituency.
Thank you so much. And until I come your way again next week, my name is Abdul-Jalil, and I am a son of Musa Kumo. Bye-bye for now.